I've gotten back onto Twitter. I have an X account now. I made it for the Fletch report. Specifically, I wanted to have a X account for for my channel. So once I created a profile and got back on Twitter, the first thing I did was follow Elon Musk, and he's the gift that keeps on giving. Almost every day he's got funny or insightful posts. And back on December 25th, so Christmas this year, he posted an excerpt from a Michael Crichton talk. So I believe he's quoting Michael Crichton in this post. But it's a few paragraphs describing the Gell-Mann amnesia effect, which I'm not familiar with that term, Gell-Mann amnesia effect, but I am familiar with the concept, so that's what we're going to talk about and get into in the rest of this video. So reading from Elon's post, media carries with it a credibility that is totally undeserved. You have all experienced this in what I call the Murray-Gell-Mann amnesia effect. Briefly stated, the Gell-Mann amnesia effect is as follows. You open up the newspaper to an article on some subject you know well. In Murray's case, physics. In mine, show business. You read the article and you see the journalist has absolutely no understanding of either the facts or the issues. Often the article is so wrong it actually presents the story backwards, reversing cause and effect. I call these the wet streets cause rain stories. Papers full of them. In any case, you read with exasperation or amusement the multiple errors in the story. And then you turn the page to national or international affairs and read as if the rest of the paper was somehow more accurate about Palestine than the baloney you just read. You turn the page and forget what you know. That is the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. I'd point out that it does not operate in other areas of our life, in ordinary life. In ordinary life, if someone consistently exaggerates or lies to you, you soon discount everything they say. But when it comes to the media, we believe against evidence that it is probably worth our time to read the other parts of the paper. So that's the quote that Elon's attributing to Michael Crichton, and then underneath that Elon posts himself. That's why it's important to have citizen journalists who are experts in their subject or on-the-ground eyewitnesses versus reporting from a distance. And I would speculate that everybody starts with this amnesia effect a little bit, because when you're young and naive and gullible, you tend to trust authority figures, and the mainstream media is sort of a authority figure. You know, a reporter on TV or an anchor on a news network must know what they're talking about, or why would they be in that position? So there's somewhat natural to just invest some credibility in them. I guess in my case, I got over that amnesia effect rather quickly compared to other people. From a very young age, I was very skeptical of the media. I got over my amnesia faster than other people, evident by, the millions of people in their 50s and 60s who still watch cable news as if it's at all reliable. But yeah, one of the things that really taught me to mistrust the media was seeing them get wrong the things that I actually had quite a bit of knowledge about. In the long form version of this video, I get into a couple of examples of my own experience observing the media get things terribly wrong in areas where I have some expertise or some knowledge. One of those is the firearms industry, how I just routinely would see the media misrepresent how the industry worked and how the laws pertaining to firearm ownership in America worked. I also bring up the example of the Kyle Rittenhouse case, how they covered that story. So that's in the other video, but really I could make this video hours long if I wanted to go into every example of the media getting things terribly wrong. You can think of Nick Sandmann and the story about the Covington kids. Basically it was a bunch of Catholic kids at a pro-life demonstration. Nick Sandmann, just a 16-year-old kid from this Catholic school, happened to be there wearing a MAGA hat. He has this sort of awkward encounter with a counter-protester. And Nick Sandmann's basically just standing there minding his own business. And this other goofball comes up to him and decides he's going to have some kind of a stare down with him as he's beating on his drum. But anyway, rather than report the story accurately, many in the media decided to turn Nick Sandman into like the quasi leader of a hate mob, trying to intimidate this poor elderly Native American person. And it was all hogwash, and actually the kid ended up suing multiple media outlets for how they defamed him, and apparently walked away with multi-million dollar settlements from several media companies. And that would just be one more drop in the ocean of the sea of media malfeasance. Another example from contemporary time is basically a fabricated story that Rolling Stone got caught reporting.
Rolling Stone has been forced to issue an update to their viral story about Oklahoma hospitals being overwhelmed by patients who overdosed on the drug ivermectin to fight COVID. This after the doctor they cited was contradicted by the hospitals he referenced. On Friday, the Liberal magazine published the claims made by Dr. Jason McGellier. He's quoted as saying, "The ERs are so backed up that even gunshot victims were having hard times getting to facilities where they can get definitive care and be treated." Now, the story originated at a local TV station, but was widely shared by media outlets and amplified by reporters, including MSNBC's Rachel Maddow, who shared it with her 10 million plus followers. The hospital put out a statement saying, quote, "Although Dr. Jason McGellier is not an employee of NHS Sequoia, he is affiliated with a medical staffing group that provides coverage for our emergency room." With that said, Dr. McGellier has not worked at our Sallisaw location in over 2 months. NHS Sequoia has not treated any patients due to complications related to taking ivermectin. This includes not treating any patients for ivermectin overdose. David, they got this story.
Now, I never put much stock in the Rolling Stone magazine anyway. Basically, it's a recipe of one part a magazine that covers musicians and one part leftist propaganda. But apparently there are people out there that think it's actually a credible magazine. But anyway, they covered this story about a hospital in Oklahoma. And basically the story goes that this hospital was so overrun with people overdosing on ivermectin and needed to be treated in the emergency room that they had to turn away gunshot victims. And it was picked up by other media outlets, and a bunch of celebrities chimed in on it. "Oh, isn't this, look at all these crazy people ODing on ivermectin." The story turned out to be a total fabrication. Not only was the hospital not overrun, they reportedly didn't treat any cases of people having injuries or overdosing from taking ivermectin. But despite there being this and just a multitude more of examples of the media being corrupt and incompetent in the way they cover news, despite them getting it wrong all the time, getting caught exaggerating, just sometimes completely fabricating stories, people forget. They still forget. And they go back to the next day and read the coverage of the next thing and don't remember that they just got lied to and made fools of because they were dumb enough to trust the media the day before. Like, imagine if you could take a media organization like CNN and you could amalgamate it down to a single person. That person would basically be a hyper-partisan, compulsive liar that is constantly going around telling crazy stories and exaggerating things to the moon. And if you encountered a person like that, you would soon come to not trust them. But for some reason, as a news organization, millions and millions of people still trust them. And that's the Gell-Mann Amnesia effect in a nutshell. You've been watching the Fletch Report. If you're hearing this, it means you've made it to the end of the video. But before you click onto the next thing and continue down whatever rabbit hole you're on YouTube or Rumble, I've got a small favor to ask. If you found value in my content and you want to help the channel out, the best thing you can do is share it with somebody else that you think will find value in it. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Links to the channel on YouTube and Rumble will be provided below. Additionally, I'm making a Facebook page for the channel as well as a X/formerly Twitter. Feel free to follow me on those platforms as well. If you're feeling exceptionally generous, provided in the description below will be a link to Buy Me a Coffee, which is the online equivalent of a tip jar. Thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting the channel.